In those days, the art, the science of bidding was at a terrible level. Even the best players in the world were sometimes awful bidders. They could play the cards, but the bidding was atrocious. But over time, the bidding has gotten so much better that a funny thing happened in the old days. If you just sat there and looked pretty, the opponents would screw up themselves because they didn't know what they were doing. Now, today, people bid pretty.
Everybody about Mel's rules.
Sure. I would think about it and I would say, why did I figure this? And then I formulate some rule, but I think, how do I know it's right? The worst thing is to give somebody a rule that doesn't work. That's counterproductive. What I would do is I would make a list of situations. When I want to do situation, write out 15 possible hands that someone might have there and say, okay, this is the bidding, what do you do now? What I did was I took this list of about 10 or 15 hands and I would send them out to about 15 very top players. I wouldn't say I'm doing a rule, I would say, here's the situation, what do you do? 95% of the time, these great players, and a lot of them better than me, would say, I do this and I do that, and I know I have a rule, because this is the great players of the world. If they do this, and Mel's rule, if you follow Mel's rule, you'll bid like Jeff Meckstroth bids. That's how I created my rules. It's out of this desire to help my student, to make it simple, and that's how I came.
So give us some of the rules.
Sure. One of my most popular rules is to answer the following question. Suppose one opponent opens a no trump on your left, and your partner passes, and the opponent on your right passes, and you're in what we call balancing seat, the pass-out seat. Should you bid or shouldn't you bid? Okay, first you have to understand, when the bidding goes one no trump pass, we think the opener has more or less 16 points, 15 to 17. It goes one no pass, and the person on your right, we think has between 0 and at most 8 points. Let's say 4, midpoint. When the bidding goes one no pass, they have 20 points. 16 and 4 is 20, which means that we have 20. So we have just as much right to the contract as they do. Since I believe that we have half the points, that the only thing that determines whether I should be bidding or not is my configuration, my distribution. Balanced hands play defense. Skewed hands, distributional hands, we say, you want to bid. Mel's rule of 2, which simply says, if you have 2 shortness points, meaning 1 singleton, 1 void, or 2 doubletons, then bid. What about points? It doesn't matter. Now, why? Because suppose I have 6 points. Mel, you're not going to tell me to bid against a strong no trump with 6 points?
Because my partner has points over the no trump bidder.
Because if I have 6, we've figured out that your partner has 14. Why didn't my partner bid with 14 points? Because she or he has a balanced hand. One no trump pass, you bid. Now, you can pick your convention of choice.
What's your favorite?
I have a negative favorite. In the balance seat, I do not like Capoletti at all.
Okay.
But any of the other ones are fine. Meckwell or Don't, Woolsey.
Yeah, I play Woolsey most of the time.
And that tells, the rule of 2 doesn't tell you which convention to use. It tells you whether you should be bidding or you should be passing. Then
you have to look at vulnerability too.
Actually, not so much.
Really?
Really.
You've looked at, so red, it's worth it?
Most of the time. I show one hand in my book. I was playing with a client many years ago. My book came out in 2007. And immodestly, it sold very well. I believe, and I don't mean to boast, but I believe it's just about the largest selling bridge book written in the 21st century.
Wow.
Now,
and I will have the link in the comments below and the description so you can buy it. And quite honestly, we used a lot of your rules.
Right.
And when you're trying to make a judgment error, that was another thing that we would use, is use Mel's rule to try to help you gain your judgment on a certain situation.
So I was testing out my rule in its formative years after I developed it, and I had some god-awful hand. I think I had 5 points. Went one no pass. I said, Mel, you're not going to do this, are you? Come on, be reasonable. So I threw out a bit. Partner had just about what I thought, and it worked out.
Give us another rule.
Sure. One rule which has gained a lot of popularity is what I call Mel's Rule of 17.
Yes.
It answers the following question. My partner opens a weak 2-bit, say 2 spades, and the next hand passes. It answers the question, should I be trying for game or should I just leave it alone? My rule of 17 says you add your high card points plus the number of cards you have in your partner's long suit. And if those two factors add to 17 or more, you probably should be trying forward for game. If it doesn't add to 17, then you shouldn't be trying for game unless you're preempting, like 2 spades pass 4 spades.
They're white versus they're red, and you're just getting in the way.
2 spades pass 4 spades, we use the law of total tricks.
Yep.
I know my partner has 6 and I have 4.
Be at the 4 level. Be brave.
That's why when people ask me, do you need 2 of the top 3 honors? 3 of the, that was old.
No.
No, because the most important thing is how many you have, not so much the quality.
Mel, I was playing with a very creative player in the Nail, who's a wild man. He actually is nicknamed in the Bay Area Wild Man, and I ended up playing with him in the Nail. Actually, the guy that I'm playing with was playing with him in the Blue Ribbons and got knocked out. We just missed qualifying for day 2 of the Nail. We were the last ones because he made an insane
The
bid.
Nail is an open pair, a national open pair.
It was the first event of this fall nationals, and we missed qualifying because my partner went for 1,400 on a partial, against a partial. There was no reason. Not good. But one of the things is I had a 17 count with a singleton ace of spades. He opened 2 spades, and I passed. And there was a pro sitting at the table. He just stared at me when the dummy came down. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I know my partner. When we got knocked off and we go over to the regional, I had to warn because when we were in the regional, you have a lot of different skill levels. And whenever he would bid, I would warn the opponents. He's a very optimistic 14 plus to 16 or 17. And he's a very optimistic week 2. It could be a 5-card suit headed by the 7.
That's a little much.
He did that. And it's really hard to play bridge. Bob came off of that, and then him and I played yesterday. And he's, oh my God, it's so nice to be opposite somebody that has their bid.
Right.
We're calm at the table and just makes bridge beautiful.
Let me tell you about preemptive. People don't understand something. The modern trend is to preempt pretty aggressively. In the old days, when I first started, this was back in the 60s and 70s, whatever, it was unheard of. You always had to have very good suits, etc. But there was a reason for it. In those days, the art, the science of bidding was at a terrible level. Even the best players in the world were sometimes awful bidders. They could play the cards, but the bidding was atrocious. But over time, the bidding has gotten so much better that a funny thing happened in the old days. If you just sat there and looked pretty, the opponents would screw up themselves because they didn't know what they were doing. Now, today, people bid pretty well. You got to jostle them a little bit. If you leave them alone, they'll get to the right contract. They'll key-card block you to death. And
I had a red versus white come in the middle of a live auction. 1 spade, 2 no. I had ace, king, queen, 6 of hearts, and 4 clubs on the side. And we were red, and I wanted to make sure I got the lead out, and I bid 3 hearts. And they didn't make it to their cold slam.
Good. Which
was a good result for us, and part of the reason we're doing
well. I
well.
bid very aggressively there because when they know they have a 9-card fit,
they're not going to let me play.
They're not, more to the point, they're not going to double you so fast. If I have ace, king, 5th of a suit, I'll bid it.
You want that lead?
I want the lead.
I knew my partner was going to be on lead.
Exactly.
Made sense. It is getting ready to get started. I could probably talk to you for the next hour.
Yeah.
I would love to have more of the rules. I'm going to end this right now, and because I do have a final to go to, and you have the Swiss. Are you doing the raw Swiss?
No, I have a plane to catch. We're going home today.
Oh, you're going home. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm glad I got this opportunity.
It's been my pleasure.
And hopefully I'll get to see you in Memphis Are you coming?
Yes. You got to promise me one thing. After you win this national mixed pairs, make sure you still speak to the little people.
I do a lot for everybody.
I know. She's
and yeah,
she's one of the real stars of the game who does the behind the scenes work to help promote the game.